Hi YouTube, I've got a new video for you. This one is about college. I wanted to make a video to reflect on how bipolar affected my college years because I think bipolar shaped my college experience to a fairly large extent. College is obviously a very stressful time of life with midterms, finals, homework, and social obligations. And since bipolar episodes are often triggered by stress, college, at least for me, was a very episode-ridden time. This was before my diagnosis though, so I guess they weren't official episodes, but I think I can fairly accurately identify my major episodes during those 4 years. Late adolescence and early adulthood are also often the time that bipolar symptoms tend to start occurring, so that's another reason college tends to be an episode-heavy time. So I guess I'll just go through my 4 years and lay out my episodes. After high school, I immediately got depressed. The stress of the transition to college really got to me, and my job was really stressful, so I was just not doing well. But when I got to college, things turned around. The stress of meeting all sorts of new people and having new classes and all that actually sent me into a hypomania that lasted for most of my freshman year. This is really convenient because this is the time I was supposed to be making new friends and securing myself as a good student. I got straight A's, and when I was hypomanic and I was extra social, more so than I usually am. I'm usually not very social at all, and I just generally had a lot of fun. Then when finals hit first semester, I started having panic attacks and had a 5-month-long depression afterward. So I sought help at my school's health center, which I highly, highly, highly recommend to anyone in college. There should be a mental health clinic at all colleges, and it should be free, and they should be able to refer you elsewhere if they don't have enough room to fit you in immediately. Anyway, I sought help, got a counselor, and saw the school psychiatrist. She prescribed me Celexa, which is an SSRI antidepressant, and occasional Ambien and Klonopin for my horrendous insomnia and panic, respectively. The Celexa didn't help at all, but I was on it for a year and a half. I'm half convinced that it kept me depressed, or at least kept me highly anxious and agitated for the bulk of my sophomore year. So that explains my sophomore year. My sophomore year was just one big depression. My grades dropped, I dropped my friends, and I isolated myself. I was really socially anxious and just generally anxious, and picked up the diagnoses of general anxiety disorder and major depression from the mental health center at school. I took up smoking and drinking pretty frequently with my friends, which really didn't help. I probably drank every day or almost every day for a couple of months there. In any case, I was really depressed, like I didn't want to live. I was just miserable. The one good thing that came out of my sophomore year was that I chose a major, which was philosophy. I really got into my ethics classes where we talked about what makes for a good life, and the philosophy I gravitated toward was Aristotle's. Aristotle says that a good life is a happy life, and by happy he means a life of fulfillment or flourishing. To him, flourishing comes from finding a mean between two extremes, i.e., finding balance. This has been a really important and defining philosophy for me as a bipolar individual because my illness throws me towards two totally different extremes. It leaves happiness in the middle, difficult to obtain, but totally fulfilling to obtain. To me, balance is happiness, and that's what I want out of life. Anyway, that's just a sloppy philosophical aside. So, over the summer of sophomore year, I had to go off of my meds because my school's health center closed and I was on the school's insurance. So I stopped the Celexa, and I actually felt pretty great. Not manic, not depressed, just normal for a while. Then junior year rolled around. This year, my best friend was out of the country studying abroad, and I was forced to make some new friends again. My best friend tends to smoke a lot of weed, and I smoked with her, so while she was gone, I was completely clean and rarely drank. I was off of meds and got super hypomanic for the whole semester up until finals. I got straight A's again, made a ton of new friends, and enjoyed the heck out of all of my classes. I participated every day, I led study groups, and I went over and above what I needed to be doing and totally overcommitted myself, but I kept up. I went to philosophy conferences, even pro conferences, and kept up with grad students and professors. It was just a great semester. I would often stay up for nights on end and feel fine, but this eventually took a toll, and then the next semester I crashed. My best friend came back to the States and I started smoking and drinking again, and I would just cry on the way to school every day or skip class altogether. I was just so depressed and anxious. This was probably my second worst depression ever. It lasted all semester and lifted during the summer when I took myself off Celexa again. Something about Celexa just did bad things to me. That summer I went hypomanic again and did wonderfully at my summer job and got promoted and was extremely social. I would spend time with my friends pretty much every day, which is out of character for me. I was just happy, happy, happy all the time. And again, didn't sleep much, but didn't feel tired. I just had plenty of energy. Anyway, senior year rolled around and I sort of evened out for the first semester. I felt pretty normal. Nothing major happened either depression-wise or mania-wise. Second semester is when things took a turn. It was then that I decided to take on an honors thesis, which consisted of writing and defending a thesis in front of the entire philosophy department. I was the only person in my school to do so that year or the year before, and it was stressful. The stress sort of built up and up and up as the semester progressed. But it didn't make me depressed. It made me anxious, sure, but not depressed. Eventually, about 2 weeks before my thesis defense date, I went totally manic. I stayed up for 9 days straight with only tiny little half-hour to hour-long naps sporadically throughout the days, and I felt amazing. I felt like I was on a combination of ecstasy and heroin and cocaine all the time. I was talking non-stop and really quickly. I was speaking in puns and jokes and rhymes and all sorts of what I thought were clever lines, and I could not shut up. I spent days and nights at my friend's house late into the night until they couldn't stay up any longer. Then I'd go home and write in this weird code I invented. Then after a few days of getting weirder and weirder, like I described in my video about mania, just to recap, I was seeing things, had some delusions about my code, and was speaking in somewhat of word salad. I was confused, and it's hard to remember this time. I eventually got some sleep and evened out a tiny bit, but was still pretty manic. I was manic throughout my thesis defense, which went extraordinarily well. Anyway, I covered most of this in my mania video, so I won't drag on. Needless to say, I crashed horribly. I graduated, and at graduation I was already really, really low. I was agitated and wanted to sleep all the time instead of engaging in all the ceremonies and celebrations. The next 5 months were spent in absolute agony. I became suicidal over and over again and couldn't see the point of living. I had to call family members and have them talk me down, or have friends do suicide watches for me, or have friends call suicide hotlines for them to talk me down. This was the worst and most recent depression I had, and I think it was both caused by my mania as a result of it and by graduating, since I got depressed when I graduated from high school as well. For some reason, I just can't handle transitions very well. Once I'm settled into a routine, I can do okay and can stay stable, but big transitions and the stress that comes along with them tend to send me either way up or way down. So that's the end of my college experience, and I guess the moral of the story is that if you're in college and you're bipolar, do whatever you can to make your transitions easy and keep stress low. Make arrangements with your mental health clinic and disability services to have more time to take tests or to study during finals to reduce stress, and have a plan for when you graduate so you don't graduate straight into the worst depression of your life. Most of all, get in counseling and get a psychiatrist. Your college should offer both, and they might just save your life. Be firm with them though if you know you're bipolar. Don't let them treat you like you have unipolar depression like they did for me, because that really didn't help. In fact, it probably hurt me. Okay, that's about all I have to say. Thanks for listening, and your comments are welcome. I'd love to hear about your experiences with college.